Hey everyone, this is Yusuf from Crafting Clouds, and in today's video, I want to cover a pretty big topic, an important topic, which is how to import into Method from another system. So let's say that you're migrating from another accounting system, such as Sage or FreshBooks or something like that, and you want to be able to take your accounting records and import them into Method or into your QuickBooks even through Method. I'm going to show you how to do that today using the invoices table. Now, the reason why I chose to do the invoices table is because I actually had someone reach out to me that's trying to accomplish this, and they were asking for a video on this. So this is for you. Invoices is a great example to use because it is one of the more complex examples of how to import into Method. Method, as you know, doesn't only import into QuickBooks tables, you could also import into Method only tables or custom tables that you've created. But for the sake of having you understand thoroughly how to use the import tool, I wanted to use a complex table, which is the invoices table, because there's many relationships to the invoices table that you have to consider when you're importing into it. So let's begin. So as you can see, I have my two spreadsheets. Okay, this is my invoice line spreadsheet, and this is my invoice spreadsheet. Now, the columns that I have for each are the ones that I want to import into Method. Now, step one, your column headers must match, or they should. They don't have to, but it's going to make your life a lot easier. They should match the field names for that table that you're trying to import to. So, what I'm going to do is we're going to go into tables and fields, and we're going to go to the invoice table, and we're going to just look at this together. So, if you look, you see customer, okay, and it's asking for entity full name, okay? So, that means the value that I should have for the customer, not only should the column header match what it shows here, which is customer, but the value should be the customer's full name in QuickBooks. Full name, if you're not familiar with that, is if you have a customer and a sub-customer, or for some of you, as you know, a customer job, especially for those of you in the field service industry, you're going to have your customer, which is, for example, 123 Denver Court, colon, your job, which is roof install, okay? Because that's how you're going to be able to have repeatable jobs in your QuickBooks, and that is your full name. Now, the customer's name would be just roof install, but paired with the customer, which is 123 Denver Court, that becomes the full name, which is unique. Every customer's full name needs to be unique in QuickBooks, and that's how you do it. Now, if you don't have that complex structure in your customer list, then you don't have to worry about it. You can just refer to just the name. You can completely disregard what I said. But for a lot of you, you will have customers, customer jobs. You need to make sure that you're putting the full name. So in my case, I just have Lululemon. But let's say there was a job here, right? I would have to put Lululemon roof install. Okay? Or else, if I only put Lululemon and really it was supposed to go to that job, it's going to think that I'm only supposed to go to Lululemon. And then it's going to send that invoice to Lululemon, which is the wrong customer, right? It really should have gone to the job. So that's the first thing. The second thing is the transaction date. Your dates need to follow a specific date format. And the date format that you should choose is the year. So let me actually go into here. Sorry, bear with me one moment. I actually want to do a little board here as well. Okay, we're going to do a blank board. Okay, there we go. Let's do a blank board. Okay. So we're going to do here. the year, the month, and the day. Okay, so that means it should be in this format. Today's date is December 29th. It should be like this. Okay, don't worry about the time. The time will automatically attach itself when you import into Method. You don't even have to worry about the time. The main thing that Method looks for is this format. If your dates are in different formats, it is not going to work. Okay, it's going to cause a validation error in the import wizard, which we're going to show you later in this video. Okay, so make sure they're always in these formats. Don't worry about the times here. We can actually remove these times if we wanted to. You can disregard that. Okay, then the terms. Oh, another thing. If you're trying to import an invoice to a customer or a job that doesn't exist in your QuickBooks, it's going to come back as an error. You need to first create that customer job in QuickBooks or in Method, then attach that full name to the customer, because this is a relationship field. This customer column is a relationship field. All relationship fields or drop-downs in Method have preset values in them. Those values must exist first in Method before you can import into them. Unfortunately, Method does not do an upsert. You have to insert these separately if they do not already exist. Which leads me to the terms. This net 30 term, if this net 30 term does not exist in my QuickBooks, this is going to come back as an error. I must create a net 30 terms value to specify net 30 here on my invoice import file. Okay. Then we have due date. We have assigned to. Assigned to is just myself, my username. So this would be your username in Method. Then you have your address. These are just text fields. Okay. Now, one thing to know about text fields is because we are importing these into Method as invoices and they are going to be going into QuickBooks, we also have to take into consideration character limits. Okay. Each one of these text fields have character limits. So we have to make sure that when we're importing into these fields that we're not going beyond the acceptable character limit that we've defined on our table. This doesn't even go for just QuickBooks fields. This goes for any text field that you create in Method. It will always have a character limit. You want to make sure that your values here are below that character limit. So for example, if we go into here, okay, and we go back to our bill address 1, you can see here it has a character limit of 500 characters. That's great. We're well below that here, so we don't have to worry about that. Okay. Then we have bill address city, bill address state, bill address postal code, ship address city, state postal code, blah, 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 blah. Now, one thing to mention, which I want to highlight, is this record ID column. Okay. I call it record ID. Now, from your system that you're exporting from and importing into Method, this record ID is going to be the unique ID of your record, right? And you must make sure that in your import file, you're bringing this over, because we must import your invoice first before we can import your invoice line items. We can't do them both at the same time, and it has to be done in that order. Your invoice needs to be imported first, then you can import your invoice line. And the reason why we want a record ID here is this record ID, again, is probably your legacy or your record ID that you've had from your previous system. You want to make sure that those record IDs reflect here on your invoice line so that after you import these invoices into Method, you run a VLOOKUP, which we're going to do, to get the new record ID that Method has now given us, and we're attaching the new record ID that Method has generated into a new column here, right? And we can call this Method Invoice Record ID, okay? Just for the sake of the video, okay? So we're gonna run a VLOOKUP, grab the record ID from our old system based off of the invoices that were imported into Method, take the Method record ID from those invoices and put them here. So that way, when we're importing our line items, they're going to the correct invoice headers. Okay. This is why I wanted to use this example in this video, because this is quite complex And if you could do this, then you could pretty much handle 90% of the other stuff as in terms of importing and method. And that's all I want you guys to be able to do is walk away from here being able to use the import tool comfortably for 90% of the scenarios. Okay. So there we go. So what did we cover so far? Column headers should match exactly the nomenclature of your field names and method, as you can see here. Your drop-down values, such as customer, must already exist before you could import into them. Your date values must follow the date format, which I'm going to bring back again here, just as a refresher. There you go. Must follow this date format. Okay. And your text values for your text fields must be below, not beyond, below the character limits. Okay. These are all the things that you should be considering for. Now, another thing that you should be considering for, which I'm not going to show in this video because I've dealt with this in the past, is coming from another system and bringing something into Method, you could have duplicate records. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to be able to make sure that you don't have any duplicate records inside of your invoice. Now, how do you do that? For in this scenario, let's imagine there was two record invoices with the same record ID of 3. Okay, you're going to want to go in here, and I'm just going to do it just for this example. I'm going to do 3. We're going to go in here, conditional formatting. Okay, highlight cell rules, duplicate values. Boom. There we go. And then you're going to want to filter by color for those duplicate records and just remove one. Okay, so this is another thing that I've come across often in the past in my 10 plus years experience in Method CRM. Again, I used to work there. I was a former lead solutions consultant on their professional services team. I've seen this time and time again. This is something that we do come across. This is how you solve for it. Okay. Now, if there's anything else that comes to mind as we progress in this video that I forgot to mention, I will bring it up. I apologize if I forget something, but I think for the most part, we covered everything. Oh, no, I just remembered another one. Okay. Going to your invoice line. Again, your item is a relationship field, a drop-down. You have to make sure when we go to our item, we're referencing snacks, box of chocolates. Okay, why aren't we referencing just box of chocolates in the item? Well, reason why is if we go to the invoice line table, okay, we go to item, look at that. Item is referencing the full name because the full name is a unique ID in Method and in QuickBooks. That's how their database works, okay? So you must always specify, I can't just put box of chocolates here. I must put the category that it's attached to if you have your item category set up that way and your items list set up like that. If you don't, ignore this part of the video. But for those of you that do, and you do use item categories and you do have items with sub-items, such as snacks, box of chocolates, you will need to specify the full name, okay? This, again, is a drop-down value. All of these values here must already exist in Method. Character for character. This is case sensitive as well. So if it's even one case sensitive, one letter off, or is the case sense it's not the same in terms of case sensitivity, in terms of uppercase letters and lowercase letters, it's going to fail validation. Okay. Description is, again, a text field. Quantity is I believe quantity is an integer field. Quantity, yep. Decimal with 0 decimal place, 0. So that's an integer. Rate 15, amount 15. This is fine. Now, what I really wanted to point out, okay, for your amount and rate fields, okay, or any decimal field that you're importing to. Again, we're just using this as an example for your video. You may be importing into a custom table or an estimate table or whatever the case, and you may have decimal fields there. If your decimal fields are set up to have, let's say, so for example, this rate has 5 decimal places. You see that? This rate on the invoice line is set up to take up to 5 decimal places. If for whatever reason the data that you are importing into this rate column has greater than 5 decimal places, so 6 decimal places and up, it is going to fail validation. You also have to make sure that your values here for the amount field, so any amount fields that you have, if they have decimal places, make sure your decimal places are equal to or below the allowed decimal places within method for that field. Okay? Now, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I missed. I don't think so. So for that, let's finally begin with the import. Now, for the sake of this video, I've already gone ahead and I've created these customers. They're already in my QuickBooks and in my Method account, okay? So I don't have to go and create this. I'm not going to show you. We're not going to go through that step. We're just going to go and start importing directly into Method. Now, if I come across problems, because I haven't tried this yet, if I come across problems in the import tool myself that I'm facing, you and I are going to go through it together, and I'm going to try to figure it out myself. Okay? So let's go into integrations. Okay, so to access the import tool, you hit your profile icon. Sorry, I'm still in holiday mode. You hit your profile icon on top right, you hit integrations, and you'll find the import tool right there. Right away, it gives you some stock standard tables here: leads, customers, opportunities, activities. By the way, when I was working at Method, which was I started back in 2015, this was very different. Though they have come leaps and bounds with how much better this import tool has become. Leaps and bounds. I love it. And it could get better, but already it's catapulted. Before, with the old import tool, oh my God, it was a disaster. Okay? It wasn't that intuitive. There wasn't a validation check. You couldn't tell if things failed or not, or what. It was not the greatest experience. Now, because we don't see the invoices table here, we're just going to choose other, and then we're going to specify invoice. Again, order of operations is important. We cannot import into the invoice line table first. How can you import to your invoice line table if you haven't even imported your invoices yet? Think of your invoices as 2 tables. Invoice header, which carries your customer, transaction, terms, whatnot at the top section. All right. And maybe your memo notes and your totals at the bottom. That's one table, your invoice. But then you have your invoice line, which is all of your line items. Your line items need to know which invoice they're going to. So you can't import into the invoice line table first if you haven't even given the line items a home yet. They're homeless. You got homeless invoice line items. We need to give them a home. Let's go ahead and import into the invoice table. Okay? So let's go invoice right here. And let's go ahead and choose our invoice right here. There we go. It automatically attached it. Let's hit next. Now, think of this. Look at this wizard. Okay? These are the steps down below. Select type, choose data, map fields, validating records, review next steps. This is the wizard. Okay? We're on the map field sections. Now, going back to my number 1 rule, the reason why I said your column headers should match exactly the field names that you have in Method is because I want to make this experience as seamless and painless as possible for you, and you're doing yourself a favor by following this best practice, because if you didn't, you would be manually setting up these columns yourself, and you'd be overwhelmed with the number of columns, not knowing which one is the right one and stuff like that. By you setting it up, Method automatically detects the column header, knows exactly which field to map it to. All green check marks. Woosah. Next. Now the validation. Oh my God. I made a mistake. I'm human. I make mistakes. All right. So as you can see here, it shows record ID must be unique. The reason why this is happening is because I have included my record ID in the import. This is the record ID from my old accounting system, which was Sage or FreshBooks, whatever the case may be. This was my old record ID, which I still need. I still need this, but I don't need this for this part of the import. So I made a mistake. That's fine. We're going to go back, and we're just simply going to click X on this record ID column so that it ignores it. Okay. I'm going to hit next. Everything is validated. Again, going through my rules of decimal places, making sure that your amount fields are below the decimal place limit that you've set. Make sure your character limits on all your text fields are below the character limits that you've set. Make sure that your relationship fields, your drop-down fields, the values already exist in the system. All this stuff is happening here. Method is going in and it's making sure that these values exist. Making sure your date fields are in the same right date formats. They're making sure all of these check out. Because if they didn't, they would highlight it like you just saw with the record ID. It saw that why are you importing an invoice to a record ID that already exists in your method account? It said that it must be unique, which means record ID 3, which we saw early, just seconds ago, was for a different invoice. So this validation stage is very, very crucial. It's going to catch any data value formatting issues, whatever the case may be, it's going to catch it here. And you know what? Maybe for your first few times of importing, you're going to be stuck on the screen for a little bit. Just go back to my video. I'll have the best practices listed out in my description so that you can see exactly what you should always do when importing into Method. But as you get used to this and understanding how this validation step works, it's going to be incredibly smooth and easy for you. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and hit next. And let's import. Now, another thing it does, this is very, very cool. It says apply tags to every imported record. This is awesome because if I ever needed to revert my import, if for whatever reason I just imported 1,000 invoices and I made a big mistake and I didn't have an easy way for me to find those 1,000 invoices, right? It's going to be, I have a big problem in my hands, right? So how do I solve that problem? I'm going to go ahead here and I'm just going to add in today's date. Boom. Just like that. Now, when I go to the Invoices app and I want to go ahead and delete those invoices or find those invoices, I can filter my invoices list to look at this particular tag. And it's only going to show me the records that I just imported. Now, the reason why I chose date is because obviously you could be importing across multiple days, and date is just the best practice. Always use date as your import date for your tag. You'll be good to go. Let's go ahead and click import. There we go. Successful import. Now, let's go ahead and let's go to our invoices list. There we go. There they are. Let's go to tags. There's our 5 right there. But we're not done yet because look, they are empty. They have all the information we asked for, right? Like date, customer, terms, billing address, shipping address. So all this worked, right? The assigned to, but there's no line item still. So we still got to import the invoice line item. So let's do that. If you're still in this video, I appreciate your patience. I hope I'm helping you out immensely. If you like the content, feel free to like and subscribe down below. I appreciate your patience. I know this is a lot to take in, but just keep coming back to this video. If you don't get it the first time, just jump to the segment that you need to jump. I'll have timestamps down below, so it's easy for you to navigate towards. Use this as your instruction manual for importing into Method. Okay, so now that we've done this, the next step that we want to do is we want to export those invoices. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say integrations, export, invoice, Okay. And we're going to export. And to be honest, you don't have to include all these fields. And personally, I never like to include all these fields because it's very, very overwhelming. Okay. So let's just choose the fields that we want to look at. Okay. So customer assigned to, let's just go with the fields that we had in our original import. Okay. So we're going to do record ID now. This is important. We need this because this is now the method assigned record ID, which we're going to run a VLOOKUP on in Excel to bring to our invoice lines. Okay. So we're going to do record ID. We're going to do, all right. So I made a mistake. One thing that was crucially important, which I forgot, was because we needed to refer back to those record IDs from the Sage system or whatever system you're coming from, we do need to bring those into Method as a custom field. So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to go to the invoice table and we're going to call them legacy record ID. Okay. And I'm going to keep it as text, hit save. And then on our import sheet, we're going to take that legacy record ID column and make sure the column headers match. Okay. Now we're just going to quickly rerun the import. So let me do that. Integrations, import, other. There we go. Invoice. Let's go here. Next. Okay. And then, oh, did I not save this? Apologies. Let's go back. Invoice. Next. There we go. Legacy record ID. Okay. So I apologize for the confusion. That was a learning lesson on my part as well. As you can see, it's importing is a big deal and you got to make sure that you consider all the steps. Legacy record ID is a new field we've added so that we can run a VLOOKUP properly from the method system after we've imported the initial invoices so that we can attach the invoice line items to the correct invoice headers. And we needed to bring the unique ID from the other system into Method so that we know how to run the VLOOKUP. Okay, so that's that. We're going to quickly import it in. Okay, now we're bringing the legacy record ID in. I'm just going to do the tag again. Okay, hit import. Okay, great. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to export those same fields with the tag. So I'm going to choose amount, customer, record ID. We got to use legacy record ID as well. Okay. And then I think that's okay. I think that's all we really need. Okay. And then for a criteria, so this area is where we want to export for only the ones that we just imported today. So we're going to say tag list is equal to 2025 12/29. Hit export. There we go. Here are our here are our legacy records from our old system, and these are our new method records. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do a VLOOKUP. Okay. A VLOOKUP is an Excel function that allows you to take values from one spreadsheet and allocate them to other records to another spreadsheet. And what we want to do is we want to take, oh my God, come on. What we want to do is we want to take this. So we have this invoice record ID, right? This is something that we want to actually blank out. Think of this as the legacy record ID right here. Okay. This is the legacy record ID. And what we want to do is bring in the method invoice record ID. Okay. So to do that, let's organize these columns because that's best for a VLOOKUP. VLOOKUP requires you to put the common columns as the very first column right here. So we're going to have legacy record ID here on both spreadsheets. insert. Okay, so we have legacy record ID over here, legacy record ID on here. And then our next column, okay, is going to be, I'm going to put the column where we want to pull methods record ID right after it, okay, into the invoice line table. This is how it should be set up. And then we're going to do a VLOOKUP. So we're going to say VLOOKUP. And for those of you, you might already know this. If you do, skip this part of the video. We're going to look up the legacy record ID. So lookup value is the legacy record ID, comma. The table that we're going to be referring to is on this spreadsheet right here. We're going to highlight all 4 rows, or columns, sorry. We're going to hit next. What's the next step? Column index number. So it's asking us, which column do you want me to pull from? Well, we want you to pull on column 4, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, right there. So we're going to say column, or is it column D? No. Sorry, I'm confusing myself. Let's try this again. There we go. Column 4, because it's asking for the column index number, not the actual column letter in Excel. Okay. Then we're going to do false. Now, false is just basically saying we want an exact match, not an approximate match. We want if you find the exact number, bring it over based off of the legacy record ID. So if there's an exact match of the legacy record ID from this spreadsheet to this spreadsheet, give me the record ID for that row. Close the bracket to exit the function, click enter, and there we go. Now we're going to double click this, bring it over, and here we are. Now we have ran a VLOOKUP to pull the necessary method invoice record IDs into our invoice line table so that we can now import this into method, and method will know which line items belong to which invoice. Okay. Now let's go ahead and let's save this. Another best practice also is always save your Excel spreadsheet to CSV, as well as if you have formula functions like this, and we're going to try this right now because I'm actually not sure. We're going to go ahead and try importing this and see if it actually picks up the function instead of the value itself, which we do need the value. Okay. So I'm going to hit enter and let's give this a shot. Let's go here. We're going to do invoice line. Okay. And we're going to choose the invoice line table to import to. We're going to hit next. Okay. Now, for this, we want, see how it did not detect this column, the method invoice record ID? It's because I labeled this method invoice record ID, whereas in method, it's just called the invoice record ID. So I did a manual mapping here. This is where, we could have gone back into this sheet and renamed this column to just invoice record ID, and it would have automatically detected it. But because we want to differentiate this record ID from the legacy record ID from the old system, that's why we named it that. I mean, to each their own. This is just kind of the process I took. Now, description, it didn't pick that up, and it's because it's not called description in full. It's just called DESC, so description abbreviated. So there we go. And amount, it did not pick up, and it is because, doesn't even let us pull the amount. Okay. And I think I know why. It is because it didn't let us pull the amount because it's going to auto-calculate the amount for us. So really all we're concerned with is the quantity and the rate, the invoice record ID, the item, and the description. The amount will automatically be calculated for us based off of the quantity times rate once we import it into method. So let's go ahead next to see if it passes validation. Oh, it worked. Okay. And it took in the value, not the formula. So this is great to know. This is also something that I'm learning along the way with you guys. So in the past, what I would do is I would always copy this column and I would insert the copied one. Oh, sorry. I would actually copy this column and then I would create a new column. Okay, so I would say like invoice record ID, right? And when I copy this, I would paste the values and then I would just delete this column. That way, as you can see here, the formula is no longer looking in the formula bar. This was kind of like a best practice that I would follow as like a sanity check to know as I'm massaging my data, I'm not bringing over any, formulas or anything like that. But now it looks like the import tool only takes the value and not the formula behind it, which is great. Okay. So right now it's telling me I have 17 records that I'm going to be importing. And that is correct because I have a total 18 rows and there's that with excluding the titled row. That means there's 17 rows. Let's hit next and let's import. There we go. So now we've ran the import. Let's go back into our invoices app and let's run our sanity check. And there you have it. Now you have the invoices lines associated to your invoice. Don't worry about the $0 balance here. The reason why is because I'm on a demo account. My demo account is not connected to a QuickBooks, so it's not going to show me a balance here. For you, it should. And basically, yeah, that's it. That's the end of it. We have gone ahead and we have successfully used the import tool to import invoices. I hope this video was helpful. We did hit a little bit of a speed bump, which is fine. We learned along the way. We understood that we must bring over our legacy record IDs from our old system and import them into Method along with our invoices as a custom field, so that when we export those newly imported invoice records out of Method, we can see the legacy record ID and export that as well to refer to it for our VLOOKUP for our invoice lines, so that we can relate our invoice lines to their appropriate invoices via the legacy record ID. Again, I wanted to show you this very complex. I know this was a long video today. I hope you guys held up, but I wanted to show you the most complex example because if you can handle this, you can handle 90% of the other scenarios. For the other 10%, reach out to me. I'm more than happy to help you. You'll see my link for my website, my description, my phone number, all my contact information down below. Otherwise, I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.